I'm a simple person. I make a living by driving a bulldozer. It's a fair living, and I've provided well for my wife, Marcy, and two sons, Jason, 15, and Troy, 16. We have a modest house that is almost paid off, and enough money in the bank for the boys to go to college. Marcia and I have been married for 18 good years, or so I thought. I seem to age normally, gaining a little weight, losing a little hair, and adding a few wrinkles. My job keeps me in good shape, but my hands are a little calloused and rough. Marcy, on the other hand, is very well preserved. As she aged, her body seemed to become fuller, and her hairstyle and overall appearance made her stand out from the crowd. I was very proud that she became my wife. She dressed well and knew how to properly groom herself for maximum effect. So why do I doubt the state of my marriage? I think, like most guys, I became overconfident and happy with the way things were. I thought that if I was happy, Marcy would be too. I never looked for trouble, and I never had any reason to suspect anything. I'm trusting by nature, and I guess this made me a little gullible. For the last 6 months or so, it seems like dinner on Wednesdays is turning out better than usual. I didn't know why, and at first it didn't seem unusual. Marcy was always in high spirits and seemed excited to create a special celebration for the family, and we all loved it. Then I also noticed that on Wednesdays, she was always dressed more casually than usual. She was wearing sweatpants or some kind of loungewear, not the dress she wore when she left the house. Every second night of the week, she put on her regular clothes before going to bed. By dinner time on Wednesdays, she has already changed clothes. I'm not a basket diving person. At the end of the day, I just throw my dirty clothes in the hamper and move on. Tonight, I just needed to look deeper. I didn't even know Marcy was wearing a Blackberry and panties. God knows I've never seen her wear them. There they were, lying at the bottom of the basket under damp towels. It looked like the towels had been placed there on purpose to cover them up. She seemed sure that I would never look there. She knew me quite well. I probably should have taken them and tested them for God knows what, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. I wondered if it was all connected. Delicious food on Wednesdays, early change of clothes, new fashionable underwear. Sometimes I wished I'd been such a simple, gullible idiot. Since this had apparently been going on for about 6 months, I felt it was time to look into it a little more. If she did something behind my back, she was quite careful. My company provided each of us with a portable GPS to determine the location of the object. The following Wednesday, before heading to work, I turned it on and placed it on the floor behind the driver's seat of Marcy's Volvo. The batteries were supposed to last for 14 hours. I found it difficult to concentrate on work. All day I thought about what I was going to find. After another great dinner, I felt confident that my plan would produce the results I was looking for, but had hoped not to get. Marcy didn't suspect anything when I left the house to go to the auto parts store. After installing new batteries in the GPS, I was on my way. The GPS at first took me to a pharmacy a few miles from home and then straight to the Marriott airport. I was able to get within a meter of where she parked her car. You must like these gadgets. The route then led home, stopping at a grocery store along the way. Now I had to wait an agonizing week for the next step. On the way, I stopped at an auto parts store, and believe it or not, they sold latches for car doors. When I returned home, everything was fine. Marcy and the kids watched TV, and, as always, it seemed like we were one big, happy family. I took a shower and checked the basket. At the bottom lay a set of light, olive-colored silk underwear. Before I went downstairs to join the family, I looked in her underwear drawer. There in the back, behind her casual underwear, were several sets of fashion items. They weren't new. I carefully closed the dresser drawer and went to sit with my loving wife. I had no problem taking next Wednesday off. I found a nice spot in the back of the Marriott parking lot where no one would see me and made myself comfortable. A cooler of water and some snacks would do the trick. I figured she would arrive there after lunch, but I didn't know for sure. Finally, it took me less than 10 seconds to open his car door and another 10 to get the license plate out of the glove compartment. I couldn't decide whether I should wait for them to come out or just leave. Because I got tired of waiting, I left. Todd Marshall appeared to be in his 30s. He was handsome and well-dressed. I could understand why Marcy was attracted to him. He was everything I was not and would never be. On the way home, I stopped at the address listed in the registration book. It was a small, modest house in a well-established area. It didn't look like a family home, and there were no signs of children anywhere nearby. He seemed to have no problem with women his age or younger, and I couldn't understand why he wanted Marcy. I think she was much more desirable than I thought. Now I don't know what to do. On Sunday, the children were not at home, and Marcy and I relaxed with the newspaper. She seemed a little tense and finally spoke. "John," she began, "is something wrong? You seem a little distant lately." I wanted to avoid answering her. I deal very poorly with confrontation. "Everything is fine. I guess I'm just tired. Working overtime to raise money for his kids' college is starting to take its toll. You always worked long hours. I thought you were used to it." "Sort of, but then I worry about a lot of things. I'm worried that I'm not paying enough attention to you. I worry that I'm not the best husband I could be. Getting a good salary is important, but not the most important thing. Are you happy?" "Of course I'm happy. I have a wonderful home, 2 wonderful children, a wonderful husband, and a new Volvo. What more could a woman want?" For some reason, this made me angry. I never yelled at my wife or criticized her in any way, but listening to her tell me how great everything was, and knowing that she was cheating on me, was too much for me. I stood up, grabbed my jacket, and headed towards the door. "John, what the hell is the matter? What did I say that made you angry?" "I'm sorry, was I that obvious?" "Yes, I've never seen you so upset. Are you sure you don't have any other problems you'd like to talk about? I've always been by your side. How can I help?" It was more than I could bear. The stupid thing was that it was all my fault. I didn't want this. I wanted everything to be the way it is. I wanted peace and tranquility. Why the hell did she start this conversation? I stood at the door and looked straight at her. "Just answer me one question and answer truthfully. As long as you answer truthfully, everything will be fine. If you lie or avoid answering, I don't know what will happen." "Fine?" "Of course, everything is fine. I've never lied to you, John. Why should I lie now?" "I have never questioned your loyalty, and I have always felt that you have been honest and truthful in our relationship. But I have to ask about this." "Fine. Who do you meet at the airport Marriott Hotel every Wednesday and why?" Marcy stood and looked at me with her mouth half open. The question seemed to shock her. She was nervous and felt awkward. Her gaze darted around the floor and around the room, as if she was looking for a way out and knew that there was none. Finally, she spoke quietly and slowly. "I don't know why you ask me such things after so many years spent together. I'm disappointed that you don't trust me, and that you could even think such a thing." I stood and looked at her, waiting for an answer, but none came. "I think this answers my question. I will never bring up this topic again. I'm leaving for a while. Do not wait for me." She was silent when I walked out the door, but when I got into the car, she started screaming for me to come back into the house and talk. I wanted to get drunk. Marcy was in bed when I finally got home. She didn't move or make a sound as I lay down next to her. The next morning, she acted as if nothing had happened. The boys didn't know that something was going on between us. Breakfast went as usual, but quietly. I left for work without saying anything. Dinner that Wednesday was the same as before her affair. She was wearing normal clothes, and the food was good but not special. I assumed that she had not seen her lover that day. A quick check of the shopping cart seemed to confirm my suspicions. There were only regular cotton underwear. I decided I should pay better attention to what she was doing. Marcy bought a cell phone about 6 months ago, but I didn't. After looking around a bit, I found that I could call a specific number and check her cell phone call log at any time, and it was updated within an hour. I never got to see the cell phone bill because Marcy got her mail and paid everything out of a joint account. I also realized that Marcy and I had a limited number of friends, so I had no idea what she was using the cell phone for. I always called from my home phone, and so did the kids. Marcy also used the house phone when she was at home. Just in case, I bought my own prepaid cell phone. No bills, no contract. And it was cheap for what I needed it for. I could check her call log anytime, anywhere. As you all may have guessed, 90% of her cell phone calls were to the same number. She's called Todd 8 times. And he's called her 6 times since I ran into her on Sunday. I was dying to know what they were talking about, but I had no idea how to arrange it. For the next 3 weeks, they continued to talk a couple times a day. And then one Wednesday, we had a great dinner. The black outfit lay at the bottom of the basket. I think you might already understand this. The following Wednesday morning, the GPS was in the car again. Marcy was no longer going to the Marriott. The GPS pointed directly to 321 David Drive, Todd Marshall's home. At least we had a good dinner that night. I could no longer blame her for dating someone at the Marriott. The following Wednesday, I took time off from work and went to the Marriott. I grabbed a couple bottles of water, a sandwich, and a Sudoku book. I was finally able to use my cell phone for something practical. I called a taxi. He dropped me off at a bus stop near Todd's house. About 2 hours later, Marcy showed up. She parked the Volvo half a block from his house and walked straight through the front door. I had a spare key to her precious car. It took me about 20 minutes to drive to the Marriott Hotel and park the Volvo in exactly the same spot where it had parked a month ago. Just in case, I wiped it down and locked it before driving home. Marcy didn't know I'd be home, and I watched the silver cruiser drive past the house twice before he dropped her off at the corner. My car was parked in the driveway, and I'm sure that caused them some concern. "What are you doing at home, John?" "The bulldozer broke down around 2 o'clock, and they just told me to take the rest of the day off." "Well, I have bad news. I was at the mall and the Volvo was stolen." "Was it locked?" "Yes, it was locked. I stayed there for only a short time, and when I left, she was no longer there. I called the police and immediately reported it. I would have called you, but I didn't think you'd be home." "What did you buy?" "Nothing. I was choosing a TV for Christmas. It doesn't matter anyway." "How did you get home?" "The police dropped me off." "Oh, I didn't see the car." She gave me an irritated look and began to walk up the stairs. "Marcy, how about I order pizza for dinner?" "It's okay." Guess where I found the red lace lingerie? On Friday evening, when I returned home from work, the Volvo was parked in the garage. "I see you got your car back." "Yes, they called this afternoon." She sat at the kitchen table, looking at the cup of coffee in front of her. Her fingers gripped the handle of the cup as if she had an obsession. She was disheveled and looked tired. She refused to look at me or acknowledge my presence any more than necessary. I went upstairs and took a shower. When I came down, she didn't move. I sat on the living room couch and picked up the newspaper while she put the cup in the sink. She began to walk up the stairs. "Where did they find the car?" I asked. I turned away from her, so she couldn't see the smirk on my face. She paused for a moment and then continued up the stairs to the bedroom. It was a bad move on my part. I should never have said that. It was out of character and cruel. I've always regretted it. That evening we ordered pizza again, and I explained to the boys that their mother wasn't feeling well. Wednesday dinners were back to normal, and so was her outfit. I monitored the phone calls, but there were no calls. She wasn't getting what her money was worth from that cell phone. As the weeks went by with no change, I started checking my phone records less and less. The situation between Marcy and I deteriorated to the point where we were simply living in the same house. There was no sex or anything close. There were no kisses goodnight or goodbye in the morning. Our conversations were limited to what was necessary to function. It was a terrible time, but it was destined to go downhill. I was doing a routine check on her cell phone usage, and then about 3 months later, I accidentally did a check and discovered new phone calls. I was crushed. I didn't expect the situation to get better, but I hoped it wouldn't get worse. He contacted her first, and then several call exchanges took place over a short period of time. I prayed it would never come to that, but my prayers went unanswered. I noticed a slight change in her mood and realized that she was up to no good. I went back to checking my phone activity every day. Todd Marshall worked at a local Chrysler dealer. I wandered into the dealership Wednesday morning, knowing he wouldn't be there. I found out that Todd has every Wednesday off. Pretending to look at cars, I wandered down the hallway toward the restrooms and employee break room. In the hall, there was a display case with bowling trophies. There was a picture of Todd with the rest of the bowling team. One of the sellers left the hall. "Wow, you guys have put together an impressive collection," I said, trying to sound casual. Yes, we are very proud of the team. We don't know softball, so that makes up for it. Where does your team bowl? Crystal Lanes in Elkmont every Friday night. Are you interested in a specific car? No, I'm here only for service. I spent a few more minutes looking around the showroom before heading to Crystal Lanes. The main building was a long steel structure set perpendicular to the road. There was a parking lot along the entire side, surrounded by a row of trees and bushes. The lighting in the parking lot seemed to be a little dim, which suited my plans. I went inside and checked the league bowling schedule, which was posted prominently. The boys had a school football game on Friday night. Marcy didn't like going to games, and she still wasn't eager to go with me. It gave me a reason to get out of the house. Marcy was sitting at the kitchen table when I came down for brunch. Her eyes were red and swollen. It was clear to see that she was crying quite heavily. When I entered the room, she looked at me with hatred that I had never seen before. She didn't say anything. While I was making coffee, she left the room and went upstairs. I sat down and reached for the newspaper that was lying in front of her. Police discovered the body of Todd Marshall in the Crystal Lanes parking lot last night. He appears to have been the victim of a brutal robbery while leaving a bowling alley after a league game. His wallet was found in a dumpster a block from the crime scene. Cash and credit cards were missing from the wallet. Cards. At this time, police have no leads or suspects. His watch and credit cards went down the storm drain, and I doubt they'll ever come out. The timing was perfect. I showed up at the boys' soccer game when it started and was there when it ended. I drove the boys to and from the game. I felt sorry for Marcy, but I felt nothing for Todd. Marcy spent the entire day crying in her bedroom. I didn't try to talk to her or console her. If I were to come face to face with her, she would have no way of explaining why she was crying without giving herself away. I didn't want to screw up like last time. That night I slept on the couch. Marcy prepared Sunday breakfast as usual. She looked fresh and rested but was gloomy and lethargic. She hadn't done anything wrong, but she wasn't her usual cheerful self. She politely asked the boys how the football match was and apologized for not being able to come. There was no eye contact between us. I didn't insist. The boys and I spent most of the day mowing, raking, and trimming. Lunch and dinner were stressful for me, but the boys didn't seem to notice. That night I tried to sleep in bed, but ended up back on the couch. Inside Todd's wallet was a small photograph of Marcy standing naked in the room. She looked very pretty in the photo, except it wasn't meant for me to see. I put the photo in the lingerie drawer underneath her sexy clothes. Our lives continued as normally as possible. Marcy did everything she normally did, but seemed to spend more time on each task. She was constantly organizing and rearranging things. The food was tasty, but never lived up to the Wednesday specials. One day I checked my underwear drawer. The photograph and special underwear were gone. She never said anything about photography. I don't know what happened to all this. That week, 321 David Drive was put up for sale by Todd's brother. I decided to buy this house. It took a while, but I was finally able to convince the bank to let me make the mortgage payments in my name only, and then I started renting it out. We never talked about what happened. If we didn't talk about it, we could pretend it never happened. We were both deceiving ourselves. One day, during a lull in our non-conversation, she turned to me. "John, do you think we should think about divorce?" This was a serious question, and the first time something like this had been said. "No, not yet. Wait until the boys both graduate from high school and then everything will be fine." She sort of smiled, as if the option I offered her was better than nothing at all. I left everything as is. Time passed, but everything remained approximately the same. Marcy became more and more like a possessed woman, living in her own world. The boys and I didn't confront her. I think they knew something was going on, but they were in denial, just like Marcy and I were. Although we slept in the same bed, there was no sex. We tolerated each other for some unknown reason. Troy graduated from high school and went to the University of Pennsylvania. Jason has already been accepted and will be leaving soon. I decided it was time to meet with a lawyer. The day Jason left for college, I found Marcy at the kitchen table reading the announcements. Are you looking for something specific? I think I need to find a place to live. Don't worry, I'm giving you a home. It will be paid and you will receive the title in your name for free. You will also receive $4,000 from your checking account and $17,000 from your savings account. You can keep the house or sell it, your choice. If you decide to keep it, you better look for a job. In addition, you must transfer utility bills to your name by the end of the month. She looked at me in amazement. I don't think she expected what I suggested. Here are the papers. Sign them and it'll be over in 60 days. You can have a lawyer look at them if you want. Marcy grabbed a pen from the kitchen drawer and signed both documents without reading a word. She returned them to me. Thank you. The short-term tenants vacated Todd's old house, and I gradually moved my belongings there over the past few weeks. I bought the house furnished since Todd left it. All I had to do was move my personal items and purchase a few new small appliances. The last of my dresser and closet drawers were quickly tossed into a few black trash bags to be transported to my new place. Marcy sat at the kitchen table and watched me load and unload the truck. When I finally finished, I leaned over and kissed her softly on the cheek. I said goodbye, and she smiled with tears in her eyes. The next year flew by quickly. After the divorce was finalized, Marcy put the house up for sale. It sold quickly. The boys both did well at school. I was glad that I prepaid the tuition. I have settled into my new home. I never saw or spoke to Marcy again. I don't know where she moved, but once or twice a month I see her Volvo driving slowly past her house on David Drive. I don't know if she's thinking about me or Todd. Marcy never apologized for what I painted. She never apologized and never gave me an explanation. I never asked. They never found out who killed Todd Marshall. One of the accounting employees at work invited me to her home for dinner on Friday night. I think I'll go. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.